we are dwelling with for 1-1. It's 1-1 a.m. Good grief. At all events, climate change, climate action, vis-a-vis climate action. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. Long-term, meaning to say that it takes a long time before the temperature and weather, whether hot, cold, etc., winter, autumn, uh, changes with patterns. Such shifts can be natural due to changes in sun's activity or large volcanic eruptions. See, we now know because that volcanic eruptions could also be source of climate change. But since 1800s, 1800s, human activities have been main driver of climate change or man-made type, primarily due to burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Burning fossil fuels generates greenhouse gas emissions, acting like blanket wrapped around Earth. It's like a cover, trapping sun's heat and raising temperatures. Main greenhouse gases are causing climate change, which include carbon dioxide and methane. These come from using gasoline for driving car, diesel, the liquid that we have to fill in automobile systems, coal for heating a building, for example, clearing land and cutting down forests, deforestation. When we unhealthily on the part of the land or trees, forests, we remove, we cut, kill trees, can also release carbon dioxide, and grasses, plants, agriculture, oil and gas operations are major sources of methane emissions. Energy, industry, transport, buildings, agriculture, and land use are among main sectors using greenhouse gases. Humans are responsible for global warming. It calls for universal, multiversal even, warming, possibly firing. Climate scientists have showed humans are responsible for virtually all global heating over last 200 years because of our irresponsible actions that it affects our oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere of our earth. Human activities like ones mentioned above are causing greenhouse gases. Did you answer? What was it? What are those human activities? Clearly, you did not pay attention to me earlier. are causing greenhouse gases that are warming world faster than any at any time in at least last 2000 years. That is the problem. Average temperature of planet surface is now about 1.2 degrees Celsius warmer than it was in late 1800s before industrial revolution, and warmer than any time in the last 100,000 years. When you teach, it is a fact. I don't know if among all, if not action, that you work or you speak, verbal or teaching by doing. Last decade, that was a parenthetical point. The last decade, 2011 to 2020, was warmest on record. Yes. And each of last 4 decades has been warmer than any previous decade since 1850. Many people think climate change mainly means warmer temperatures, but temperature rise is only beginning of story. Because Earth is system where everything is connected, changes in one area can influence changes in all others. It's like a domino effect, or some parts of our body might affect other parts. Or when one person does not deliver in a mission, then the purpose is not met. The consequences of climate change now include, among others, intense droughts, water scarcity, severe lines, rising sea levels, flooding, melting polar ice, catastrophic storms, and declining biodiversity, such as the extinction of species. How true. I could be also biologist. I'm a linguist by profession. At all events, people are experiencing climate change in diverse ways. Climate change can affect our health, ability to grow food, housing, safety, and work. Some of us are already more vulnerable to climate impacts, such as people living in small island nations and other developing countries near water areas. Conditions like sea level rise and saltwater intrusion, sometimes it affects directly their houses, have advanced to point where whole communities have had to relocate, and protracted droughts are putting people at risks of famine. In future, number of people displaced by weather-related events is expected to rise, and it is expected that we don't know, is overpopulation possible? Every increase in global warming matters. In series of UN reports, thousands of scientists, that's why, parenthetically, Also, I am for one child policy and government reviewers, among all factors, agreed limiting global temperature rise to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius would help us avoid worst climate impacts and the sustain livable climate. We have to do our part in a responsible yet enjoyable living. Yet policies currently in place point to up to 3.1 degrees Celsius of warming by end of century. Emissions causing climate change come from every part of world and affect everyone. But some countries produce much more than others. Six biggest emitters: China, United States, India, European Union, Russian Federation, and Brazil. I remember reading uh, wherein a Brazilian leader was electrocuted. Together accounted for more than half of all global greenhouse gas emissions in 2023. By contrast, 45 least developed countries accounted for only 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Everyone, these are statistics in nature. If we find hard to understand this, we must uh, help seek help of statistics savvy. Everyone must take climate action. However, people and countries creating more of problem have greater responsibility to act first. We face huge challenge but already know many solutions. Many climate change solutions can deliver economic benefits while improving our lives and protecting environment. We also have global frameworks and agreements to guide progress, such as Sustainable Development Goals, UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and Paris Agreement. Three broad categories of action are cutting emissions, adapting ADA to climate impacts, and financing required adjustments necessary, including future phenomena. Switching energy systems from fossil fuels to renewables like solar or wind will reduce emissions, driving climate change. Solar products and wind products. But we have to act now, not tomorrow. While growing number of countries is committing to net zero emissions by 2050, emissions must be cut in half by 2030 to keep warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Achieving this means huge declines in use of coal, oil, and gas. We don't see that to be possible. We don't know. Production and consumption of all fossil fuels needed to be cut by at least 30% by 2030 in order to prevent catastrophic levels of climate change. In addition, Adapting ADA to climate consequences protects folks, homes, businesses, livelihoods, infrastructures, industrializations, and natural ecosystems. Our biodiversity is covering current impacts and those likely in the future. It is crucial for our living condition. Adaptation will be required everywhere but must be prioritized now for most vulnerable people with fewest resources to cope with climate hazards. No one can sustain living when it's too cold or too hot. Rate of return can be high. Early warning systems for disasters. We need disasters prevention. For instance, save lives and property and can deliver benefits up to 10 times initial cost. Babalos.